Hi, and welcome to Living History. My name is Marianne Tashko, and I want to welcome you to a show where we highlight prominent citizens of the Canal Valley. And today it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Dewey Grattan. Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, and how are you?
I couldn't be better, actually.
Good. I understand that you were one of our former city council members and mayor of the city of Thousand Oaks.
I was.
What year was that?
That was in 1972 to 1976, our bicentennial year, actually.
And what was your calling?
My calling?
What was
You
your
mean
calling
to Jesus or?
to the city, to city public service?
Okay, well, that's kind of an involved story because at the time that in 1971 there were a lot of business people in the city of Thousand Oaks that were concerned about an absolute no-growth attitude. And a lot of us felt that growth, responsible growth, was the key to Thousand Oaks surviving. And so we got together, I don't know, maybe 10 of the local business people, people like Chuck Cohn, who was a prominent attorney in town, and some people from the Jantz Corporation, Ed Liggett, and people like that. And we met, talked about what we would like to see in a candidate for the city council, what type of philosophy that we'd like them to reflect. And we had a pretty good meeting. There was a chalkboard, and names were put up as people would suggest names. How about Joe Smith for this or that, or John Doe or whatever. And so when we finished the meeting, which didn't last that long, maybe a half an hour or 45 minutes, we had probably 10 names on the board, and we said good night, and okay, we'll all think about it, and we'll come back and have another meeting in a week. So the next week, I couldn't make the meeting. I had some prior commitment or something. So the following meeting, I come back, and all of the names were off the board, and my name was on the board. And I thought it was a big joke, and I said, ha ha, okay, now let's get down to business and let's do what we're here to do. And they said, no, really, you should consider this. Well, out of hand, I said, no, that's not possible. I had a very busy orthodontic practice, and certainly didn't feel I had time for that, and my kids were young, and I was spending a lot of time in the local sport thing with kids, Little League and soccer and so forth. And the more we got to talk about it, the more interesting it became to me. So I said, you know what, I might consider this, but only if the Jantz Corporation, because kids were really my thing. I mean, I'm an orthodontist. I work with kids all day long. I see 50 kids a day, and that's what keeps me alive and vital. And I said, if somebody can pledge monies every year to youth-oriented activities, I would consider running. And if I ran, I would win. There wasn't any doubt that I could commit myself enough to win the political race. So Jantz Corporation, to my surprise, said, we'll donate $25,000 every year for youth activities. That did it for me. So we put together a platform, which basically was responsible growth with youth-oriented activities included. We didn't have any baseball fields. We didn't have any I can remember a Little League game that we were playing in a schoolyard. I can't remember the exact school. It might have been Redwood. And in the middle of the game, the sprinklers came on. And I'm thinking, how hard is it to coordinate school district, park district, so that we could have this, activity for our young people without interruption? And anyway, and the only one that really was interested in that type of thing, actually at that time, was Alex Fiore. And that's why I have an affinity for Alex, as I've told you before. They named the 23 freeway fields Alex Fiore Fields. And that's why Alex is very close to my heart. And if you're watching, Alex, God bless you.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next question. Obviously, you're very involved with children and with all the sports activities, which are very popular still, and we're grateful for all that you've done to make those things happen for kids. But when did your family come to the Canal Valley, and where did you come from?
First of all, it wasn't just me. I had a very small part in developing what was developed here eventually, so I don't want to take a major amount of credit for that. There were a lot of people that worked very hard, and I probably did the least amount of anything, but I did have an interest in it. I was born and raised in Chicago, and came out here after high school. As soon as I was able to pack my bag, I left Chicago.
Oh, you left on your own?
And came here to Southern California, started going to school. Spent about 3 years in school, and I had to work. I had a couple of jobs at night and was going to school in the day. And after about 3 years of that, kind of got burned out, and I decided I needed a rest. So I joined the Army and went in the Army for a while.
You joined the Army for a rest?
Yeah, actually, yeah. It was a lot easier than what I had been doing. And so after a couple of years in the Army, I decided that I wanted to go back to school. There was never much doubt, but it was just a matter of timing. And I had saved some money in the service, ran a few poker games and things like that allowed me to, so while I was in the service, I applied to a few dental schools, got an acceptance to SC and to Western Reserve University, but SC's class for that year was full. So the dean at that time, I think his name was Rutherford, he said, well, just wait till next year and you can start. And at that time, I was older than most freshman dental students anyhow, and I didn't really want to wait. So I took the other acceptance I had for that current year and decided to go to Western Reserve University in Cleveland, which is now, what do they call it? Case Reserve or something like that. They've changed the name of the whole university. But it was a good decision because it was a very fine school. I got a great education, and I enjoyed it very much. And had I not gone there, I never would have met Gloria, my wife. So I spent 4 years of dental school and 3 years of orthodontic training there, and had 2 children. And as soon as I got out of orthodontic training, put everybody in the car and came out here. We arrived in Southern California January of '65. I think we had about $300 left, and I drove. I had a very good friend of mine, John Evans, who was a dentist to the stars in Hollywood, and he suggested that I come in with him because it was a good opportunity. But he said, if you don't want to do that, he said, you should check out Thousand Oaks. It's a budding new community, and it's really a great place. So we came out here. We drove down Thousand Oaks Boulevard, which was just 2-lane street, and stayed in that little motel on the south side of I forget what the name of it is. Might be Caneo Motel or something. And that was it. Stayed for a day. There was an orthodontist here by the name of Norm Wall, who had just moved in. And I went to see him, and that Monday, we came in on a Sunday. That Monday I went to see him, and he was kind of discouraged with the area, and he said, I wouldn't set up here if I were you. And so I went back to the motel, and I said, pack up the bags, I'm going to go rent a house. So, because this is the place that we should be. So I went out, rented a house, and put down $50, I think, for the first month. Or maybe it was 2 months. No, it couldn't have been 2 months. Probably the first month. And that was it. That week, I went to the Bank of America, asked for a loan, and all I had was the diploma. And I think I started my whole practice and 6 months of living expenses with $10,000. And the guy, as I'm walking out, asked me, get this, would they do this today? Is that all you need? And I said, yeah, I think so.
No, they wouldn't do that today.
No, probably not.
So where did you set up practice? Where?
On Thousand Oaks Boulevard, 947 Thousand Oaks Boulevard. You know where the freeway exit comes off of onto Thousand Oaks Boulevard?
Yes.
The 23?
Uh-huh.
Well, on the left side of the 23 freeway, as you are stopped at Thousand Oaks Boulevard, there was a building called the Rock House, a restaurant, beer saloon type thing. And right across the street, where there is now a real estate building, a beautiful real estate building, was a little two-story office building. And the man that owned it was named Oral Stroud. He was one of the first realtors in Thousand Oaks. And his son, Chuck Stroud, was doing the renting of the, and it was upstairs, and there was a pedodontist next door on the second floor named Henry Levin, and he'd been here for a couple of years. So I told Chuck Stroud, I said, I don't have any money, and he wanted, I think it was $200 a month for the office space. And I said, I can't afford that. He said, okay, how about if you give me $100 a month for the first year, and then the second year you give me $300 a month. And that sounded like it was feasible, so that's what we did. Everybody in this town, from the minute I got here, seemed to be trying to do everything they could for me. And they didn't even know me. I'd been in town 20 minutes. It was just that kind of a place.
That's great.
And it would be nice to think that we keep that attitude for the other people that come into town. Tying that in with the city council, I can't tell you how many city council meetings that I sat at and presided over as mayor when people would come up in front of the microphone and say, we can't have that track here. Those homes don't, that's in my backyard. I'll see the roofs, I'll see this. And I'm thinking to myself, in 1965, had they said that to me, I couldn't be here. Half of the people that are in town couldn't be here. So that was the first inkling that I had that the city really needed somebody that was concerned about responsible growth. I'm not talking about building a house every 10 feet or on every piece of land. But anyway.
What changes have you seen happen in Thousand Oaks? I'm sure you've seen a lot.
Well,
that's a loaded question.
Moore Park Boulevard was dirt. There wasn't anything. Wizen's Corners was the big thing out here. The Ventura Freeway was 2 lanes. There wasn't any Jantz Mall or anything that was in process of being built. It was just a small town.
As a resident, what do you think has made the biggest impact on the city of Thousand Oaks? Any event or any?
I think the planning. As a resident, as any resident, I think the planning of the city by the initial city council people was the key to the growth of the whole city. We had a 701 committee, I think it was called a 701 committee, that debated what and this was made up of citizens, and it was about 100 people, I believe, made up of citizens of the area that gave their input on what they wanted to see and how they wanted their city to turn out. As a result of that committee and their input, the city council, and then because of a mandate by the state, the city council started to do a total revision of our zoning, and so we had to bring our zoning into compliance with the overall general plan. And we had to have a general plan. So that, excuse me, that's one of the things I think that probably changed the most for the city and made it a lot better and more responsible to the people that lived here.
What do you see in the future? What are your hopes for the future for the city of Thousand Oaks and their residents?
Well, obviously, I hope the city thrives, and it will, because we've got a good business base. The city obviously runs on taxes. I mean, we have to have monies to run the city. This complex is a perfect example. This wasn't even in anyone's thought.
We're in the Civic Arts Plaza.
Right.
For anyone who doesn't know that.
The Civic Arts Plaza and the new City Hall and everything that's here is a direct result of previous planning. All the monies that have been spent here, and that's not a little sum, have been available because of the businesses in the city, and because of our city managers who have taken great care with the monies that we have had and have spent them wisely.
Personally, what are your own greatest personal achievements, do you think? Either career-wise or with your family, or?
9 grandchildren.
9 grandchildren.
Yeah,
that's a big personal achievement.
That's it.
And
yeah,
do they live close by?
That's my legacy. Thank God they do. Right. I see at least 3 of my grandchildren every day. If they don't stop in my office here in Thousand Oaks or in the Simi Valley, they stop at our house, and or I see them at their house. I've got 5 grandsons and 4 granddaughters, one about 2.5 months old now. My youngest daughter, Kelly, has 3 boys and just had a girl. The oldest boy is 12, and so they go 12, 10, and 8, and now she has a 3-month-old girl. That's very exciting.
The ones with teeth, are they undergoing orthodontia?
2 or 3 of them, sure, sure, yeah.
That's great.
They have the Irish curse of the crooked teeth, so we're going to fix that.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. What's your personal motto?
My personal motto? That's a good question. Not trying to be flip or coy or anything, I would say be nice. Just, try to get along with people, and that usually works out so that a lot more important things happen if that's your attitude.
That's good. It's so simple, but not often
I'm kind
followed.
of a simple guy. This is not complicated,
Yeah.
This is what I am, and what you see is how I am.
How would you like Thousand Oaks to remember you?
Well, see, I didn't.
Other than the bright smiles that are probably running around.
Yeah, we've got a lot of kids here that, as a matter of fact, I unfortunately had an opportunity to go to emergency about 2 months ago, and the first person I saw was a kid that I had done when he was 12, and the second nurse I saw was a nurse that I had done when she was about 12, and my physician was a kid that I had done when he was about 10. So I think, I lost my train of thought.
How do you want Thousand Oaks to remember you?
Well, I would like to be remembered as somebody that cared about my patients, certainly, and that tried to give something back to the community. The community gave me everything that I have, absolutely everything. Um, without the community support of my personal practice, I'd be somewhere else, and I'd like to think I'd be supported there too. But it was with that thought in mind that I wanted to try to repay some small debt, and so going into public service was a measure of that. I did not want to go into a second term because it was just it became very intrusive, and if you're in public life, until you're in public life, you don't realize how wide open you are to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And that's not really what I wanted to be. I just wanted to go do my job and try to make things a little better, or if I could. But I mean, you have to just be an open book for everybody. And I would end up getting calls in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sure every council person has experienced that. Maybe not, but and the voice on the phone would say, if you vote for that project next Tuesday, I'll never bring my kids to you. I mean, silly things like that. Mm-hmm. Or something just as bad or worse. And that's not the type of life that I wanted. Yeah. I even had a couple of people come into town, ask me to lunch, and wanted to know whether I would vote their way on a certain project, and said we'd make it worth your while. And I said, would you just excuse me for a minute? I want to go call the city attorney, because I'd like him to be present when you make this offer. And they obviously got up and left. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that happens in bigger cities. I'm not aware that it ever happened in Thousand Oaks. Yeah. I mean, it never came to fruition, at least.
Yeah. Well, are there any questions that I missed or something you'd like to add?
No. You've been very nice, and I've done
Thank
all
you.
the talking, and I'm sorry for that. But
no, but that's why you're here.
Oh, okay.
That's why you're here. Well, thank
You've
you.
been very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we're glad for the service that you did put in, and we're very grateful to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Grattan.
Bye.